SB1070, it's been in the news for a while now, and a lot of us Kababayans, immigrants, have been asking also. We have mixed reactions about this. Some are in favor and some are not, obviously, because of the fear of this one giving birth to racial profiling or propagating racial profiling in Arizona. We're going to be talking about that today on the show because apparently Asian American groups have joined a lawsuit against SB1070. Carmina Ocampo, Attorney Carmina Ocampo, is a lawyer from APALC. Hello and welcome to Kababayan,
Hi,
LA.
Thank you so much for having me on here today.
Let us talk about this. For some reason, it's still confusing to a lot of us.
Sure.
What is SB1070 about?
Okay, well, SB 1070 was signed into law by Arizona's governor in April. And what it is it's a law that basically gives the police the power to stop anyone who they reasonably suspect is undocumented and ask to see their papers. And it actually requires the local police to do this. So anyone, even a legal resident or a U.S. citizen, if the police suspects you of being undocumented, they can stop you and demand to see your papers.
So if they see you maybe riding a bus, in the bus, they can stop you,
yes.
even without any infraction, or
yes, it's if they reasonably suspect you of being undocumented. But that's very vague. So what normally the factors that a police officer can consider in determining whether you're undocumented or not can be if you speak another language, the way you look, the way you dress, the color of your skin, your accent, if you're speaking Tagalog. So that's why we think this is just very broad and very dangerous for the police to have this power.
And that is why you joined a lawsuit against SB1070.
Yes.
What is the lawsuit about?
Yes. Well, we basically challenged this law, claiming that, it's unconstitutional and really promotes racial profiling, and it's, patently un-American. And we also have asked the federal court in Arizona to block this law and keep it from being implemented because it's set to be implemented in July 29th. So we are asking the court not to implement this law and block it from going into effect.
And where does the court stand in all this?
Well, the court is going to, consider whether or not it's going to block the law, and we expect the court to consider that before the date of July 29th, when the law will go into effect.
And what's alarming about this, Carmina, is, like I said earlier, not everyone is in agreement that this one is unconstitutional, SB1070, because even some of our Kababayan immigrants who went through the process, they are actually in favor of SB1070 because it gives strict, it implements strictly the immigration rules or immigration law. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'd like to bring up the fact that there's so many people who are opposed to this law, including our very own President Obama, who says it's unfair and is an unfair law, including lots of local enforcement. Cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco had come out in opposition to this law. And I'd like to point out that even our local Kababayans who oppose this law, they could, if they were in Arizona, even if they have legal status or U.S. citizens, they could also be stopped. They would be put under suspicion under this law. Anyone who appears foreign, which could be anybody, even if you were born here or born in another country, the way you look, anyone could come under the suspicion of law enforcement.
Everyone is a target, actually.
Yes. And also now everybody will be required to carry papers on them. You don't have papers all the time showing you're proving your citizenship. But now everyone will be required, or they could be at risk of being arrested, questioned, or detained.
Okay, which is such a hassle, of course, especially if you're just riding the bus to get to a school or to your office. But you mentioned the president earlier. How much of a factor is he going to be in this issue?
Well, the reason that states are passing these kinds of laws, and this law really is an example of a state being frustrated with our federal immigration system. So they're trying to create their own solution, which we're saying is a very terrible solution. And so it's just an example of how, states are trying to find their own solution. But it's really the federal immigration is really the responsibility of the federal government. And the federal government, we're hoping, will pass sensible, comprehensive immigration reform, which can be a solution to these problems.
Which is taking forever. When do you think, sorry, I know we're running out of time, but when do you think can we find that, at least something comprehensive, something that we can all benefit from, something that we can all agree on?
Unfortunately, I can't speculate when that will be, but I hope that will be sooner than later, and that's why it's really important, for people to speak out about the need for immigration reform.
And what can we do?
Well, I think by sharing your stories, about your immigration experience, writing letters, talking to your local, political representatives, that's very important.
Do you suggest that we also join those rallies, the boycotts, and all those marches against SB 1070 for now?
I would encourage that as much as possible. And just, many people think that these laws like SB 1070 are only, a Latino issue, but they really affect, Asian Americans too, which is why we joined the lawsuit. There's actually, a Filipino community, Filipinos that live in Arizona, and there's Filipinos here in Los Angeles who have family members in Arizona, friends and family who will be affected by this law.
Well said. That definitely makes sense. And if you want more information about this, that's the website on the screen. Thank you so much for coming and for explaining things to us today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Magbabalik pa po ang Kababayan LA. Now let us talk about Father's Day. Don't go away.